Well, welcome to Ravensdale Bible Academy. Today's course is Introduction to Marriage, and today's lesson is the role of the husbands. Now, we find the role of the husbands in Ephesians chapter 5, verse 20 through 33. It's not the only place in the Bible, but it's kind of our anchor verse for today. This is what it says: Husbands, love your wives just as also Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her, so that he might sanctify her, having been cleansed by her by the washing of water with the word, that he might present to himself the church in all her glory, having no spot or wrinkle or any such thing, but that she would be holy and blameless. What a beautiful way to describe the role of the husband in a marriage relationship. There's a lot of confusion today in the world. Well, what does a great marriage look like? Well, unfortunately, too many people are looking at TV or movies or maybe reading Harlequin romance novels and thinking that that's what makes a great marriage, that's what the role of the husband is in a marriage. Maybe it's just to be the funny, nice guy. But see, the Bible actually lays out the blueprint for being a good husband. And one of our anchor verses is in Ephesians 5, chapter 5, verses 20 through 33. We see a very clear picture of the husband's role. And that is, and make sure you understand this above everything, the role of the husband is to be like Christ. To summarize it in a nutshell, be like Christ, to live like Christ loved the church. And so that's a heavy burden. That's a huge responsibility. There's a lot of people that balk at the idea of the role of the woman is to submit to the husband, and they don't like that idea in the world today. But if you flip that around, you look at the role of the husband. The role of the husband is to be ready and to be prepared to die for his wife. But even more, to live for his wife and to build her up. And so how does that look in just Ephesians chapter 5? Well, the first point of Ephesians 5 is to give himself up, to yield himself. So no authoritarian, no husband who is going to overrule or to be oppressive to his wife, who would take advantage of the headship, would do so if he was willing to give himself up, if he was willing to humble himself even to the point of death in the relationship. Philippians 2 says, do nothing from selfishness or empty conceit, but with the humility of mind, regard others as more important than yourself. And the example is like Christ, who gave himself up, even to the point of death on a cross. That's in Philippians 2. The second aspect we see in Ephesians 5 is to sanctify. The husband is to sanctify his wife. This is a spiritual concept. The idea is to continue to help your wife grow in godliness. And so the husband is the spiritual head of his family. The husband's role and responsibility is to make sure that he's leading his wife and his family spiritually. The third aspect is to cleanse. It has that idea of purification. Ooh, look, we're both sinners. The relationship between a husband and a wife, you have two sinful people in the relationship. There's going to be sin. There's going to be conflicts. And so the husband is to cleanse, to atone in this marriage relationship. The fourth aspect that we see in Ephesians 5 is the idea of presenting her in all her glory. Because look, the husband does not own the wife. You don't own your children. You are what's called a steward. The Lord has granted you an opportunity to oversee as the husband your children, and as the husband your wife, and you're to present her back to the Lord in all her glory, sanctified. And the fifth aspect is without spot without wrinkle. That means you're not supposed to bring sin into your wife's world. You're not supposed to bring her down. You're supposed to lift her up spiritually. And how so? Well, the sixth and final way in Ephesians 5 is so that she's holy and blameless. The idea of holy is that she's separate. She's different than the ways of the world. She follows the ways of God. She is blameless. She's righteous. She's a godly mother. She's a godly wife. And this is all part of the role and responsibility of the husband. Look, the role of the husband begins and ends as a spiritual role in the relationship, a spiritual one, not one of sexism or feminism. This is a spiritual endeavor. The marriage relationship is a spiritual relationship. And so the husband is the instrument of God's love. The husband is the instrument of God's love. And the goal ultimately in the role of the husband is for spiritual growth.